Scott here again on Flip That Script to talk to you about you starting to take some action and make some changes and basically begin to do something about the unfortunate fact of what you might be discovering and waking up to regarding that you have one or more toxic, abusive, bullying, kind of narcissistic family members. Real quick, I just want to go over the red flags a little bit, or the signs that this is the case. If you've been watching my channel and reading books or articles and listening to other YouTube channels and things are kind of clicking for you and you're starting to see that a lot of what me and other hosts and articles and authors of books are describing seems very much in alignment with what you are experiencing or have experienced before. Basically, that you have family members that match the description in the video early on in this series of videos that talks about what are toxic family members. So if your relationships with family members are very difficult, if they're highly critical, if they tend to be competitive almost to the point that it's pathologically competitive, if they seem to want to one-up you, dominate you, if they seem to lack empathy and have the inability to be happy for you in cases where most normal, healthy people or other healthy family members, friends, acquaintances, and just other people you encounter that you might share something with would be happy for you and it'd be genuinely happy for you, or have empathy for you and be genuinely sad or really feel for you, and you have family members that aren't showing empathy, that seem to be jealous or unable to truly be happy for you about something good that happened in your life or about an achievement or your achievements and so forth. If it seems like they have trouble ever being accountable, taking responsibility for things, their end of what is making the relationship difficult. If they always try to turn it around and blame you, if they tend to try to turn conversations around and make it about them, or in the case of when you're trying to talk to them about something they said or did that bothered you or hurt you, and they don't seem to be able to genuinely apologize, then there's a problem. I've kind of learned over time that it doesn't matter what you label it, because in some cases there can be a lot of overlap between things like narcissism or being sociopathic and borderline personality and things like this. But if having a reciprocal, mutually respectful relationship is challenging in ways that it isn't for you with other people, then it is time to start to do something about it. First and foremost, what I wanted to talk to you about, and this is something very difficult. I've come a long way with this, and it's soon going to be 3 years. And it's a process because I'm most of the way there with this most of the time. But it took a lot of work. And that is radical acceptance. Simple concept, very difficult to do. Radical acceptance basically means that you should realistically give up the hope that they will ever change. Very difficult thing to do. It's very normal to want to be accepted by and loved and treated with respect from your own family. I think it's much more than just a cultural notion or the fact that people like you and I take expressions and platitudes that people say, like family is everything, and when you realize, well, maybe for some people, I think there's just something very primal about it. Or as you can say, your family of origin is the tribe, so to speak, that you come from. So it's very understandable that coming to a point where you can actually fully have radical acceptance about the fact that they're never going to be any different is indeed very challenging. But it is also very freeing, regardless of what other choices and strategies that I'm going to be going over in other videos that you implement. Kind of look at it like radical acceptance is what will keep you from beating your head against the wall. It's what will keep you from being triggered, which takes time. It's what will keep you from beating your head against the wall or trying to, quote unquote, get through to them to make them see how their behavior is abusive and how they're hurting you, or trying to get them to even really listen or care. Because listening, actively listening like normal people do, healthy people, or caring like people that are more in touch with and have at least normal or average amounts of empathy, and wanting to take the feedback that you're giving them that other people would is just not something that's going to happen. Toxic and narcissistic people apparently have a very low level of insight, as I've talked about in other videos, and a very limited ability, or at least great reluctance, to self-reflect. So, growing in the challenge of radically accepting the harsh truth and reality that they'll never change, that they'll continue to be self-absorbed, and to not really have normal reciprocal relationship with you or have the kind of room and flexibility in the dynamic to make things better with you. Is kind of the top of the pyramid. I've also heard coming to a point of radical acceptance as something that is also what can help you to become indifferent. Indifference is not something most likely that you're used to feeling about something that's supposed to be important or that you value, such as a normal, healthy, non-abusive relationship with certain family members for whom that is a challenge. However, another way to look at it is this is not a normal, healthy situation. So you can't really apply the rules and make the normal assumptions that you can in regards to the dynamic and the relationship between you and someone who is personality disordered, toxic, and abusive by nature. There's something else that I kind of came to a conclusion about is there's also something called systems theory, family systems theory, and it's kind of like it's a closed system. So the narcissistic or toxic family members literally, like an immature child, expect things and people and the world to revolve around them. Because of that, there is not any normal or existing channel of feedback that in normal healthy relationships allows the dynamic to shift. Or for a friend, spouse, significant other, employer, co-worker, anybody that doesn't have these kinds of issues that toxic and narcissistic abusive people have are open to feedback. And if you're telling them that you really need them to stop a certain behavior, or you tell them more about your needs or what you would like to see, or ways that you would like to see things change, even just a little bit, and maybe not major things, but just in general, people that are emotionally healthy are able to accept feedback and improve a situation in a relationship. But because this is not possible with toxic, narcissistic, abusive people, and from what I understand, can only change minimally if they become self-aware. Their dysfunctional behavior patterns and coping mechanisms very much rooted in the false self, which I've talked about, and in putting up a front and building a barrier and guarding their wounds and injuries from which their dysfunctional behavior emanates, makes it such and is so ingrained in them that it's very important that you begin to work on this difficult task of coming to a point of radical acceptance. Because, as I said, regardless of what other strategies and decisions you're going to make, it is very important, and I would argue essential to you regaining and cultivating greater peace of mind regarding what, as I said in one of the first videos in this series, is the harsh reality of having toxic and abusive narcissistic family members.